Imagine walking into a Chase bank, a carefully guarded envelope in your hand, your heart pounding with a mix of excitement and nerves. Inside that envelope isn't just paper, it's what you believe is your ticket to financial freedom, a stack of Iraqi Dinar or Vietnamese Dong you bought years ago, waiting for that legendary revaluation that promoters promised would make you a millionaire. You approach the teller with a confident smile, but that confidence shatters into confusion and then disbelief as the bank employee, after a brief, almost pitying glance, politely but firmly informs you that they cannot and will not buy that currency back from you. This isn't a rare, unlucky incident, this is the universal, crushing reality for thousands of people across the United States and beyond, a scene repeated daily at Wells Fargo, Bank of America, and every other major financial institution. You've been sold a dream, but the very banks you expected to cash in with are the ones slamming the door shut, and the reason for this isn't a complex banking conspiracy, it's a brutal lesson in the difference between a functional, traded currency and a speculative, illiquid asset that exists almost entirely outside the legitimate global financial system. The promoters and gurus selling you these currencies have built an entire industry on hope, cherry-picked news, and a fundamental misunderstanding of how international finance works, but the banks, with their cold, hard logic and strict regulatory frameworks, are the ultimate reality check, and their consistent, universal, no, is the most important piece of Iraqi dinar news you will ever hear. Let's strip away the hype and expose the real, unsexy reasons why your IQD and VND are collecting dust in a safe instead of transforming your bank account. The primary, unassailable reason is liquidity, or more accurately, the complete and utter lack of it for these currencies in the Western financial system. When you walk into a bank to exchange euros, British pounds, or even Mexican pesos, you are participating in a massive, global, and incredibly liquid market. Trillions of dollars worth of these currencies are traded every single day on the foreign exchange market, the Forex. This means banks can instantly and easily offload any currency you sell them or acquire any currency you want to buy. There is a constant, vibrant dance of supply and demand, with prices fluctuating by the second. The Iraqi dinar and Vietnamese dong are not part of this dance in the West. For a major international bank like Chase, holding Iraqi dinar is like a modern car dealership being asked to accept a herd of goats as a trade-in. What are they going to do with them? They have no practical use for the currency, no easy way to sell it on a liquid market, and holding it creates a logistical and financial liability. They would have to ship the physical cash back to the Central Bank of Iraq or Vietnam, a process that is astronomically expensive, fraught with security risks, and simply not worth the minuscule profit they would make on your small-scale exchange. Your few million dinar is a nuisance, not an asset, in their eyes. This leads directly to the second major factor, the monumental cost and risk of handling physical, exotic currency. Think about the logistics. A bank branch is designed to handle domestic cash, with sophisticated counting machines and established procedures for verifying authenticity and managing inventory. Your bundle of Iraqi dinar notes is an anomaly. Their machines aren't calibrated for it. Their staff isn't extensively trained to spot high-quality fakes, which do exist for these currencies. Accepting your dinar forces the bank to take on a significant security risk. They now have a vault filled with a high-profile, difficult-to-insure asset that has no local value. Furthermore, the operational cost of creating a secure pipeline to ship this currency back to its country of origin is so prohibitively high that it would instantly erase any potential profit from the exchange fee. It's a terrible, loss-making business proposition. The promoters who sold you the dinar likely operated from a simple website or a P.O. box. They don't have to deal with these multi-billion-dollar logistical nightmares. They took your clean, liquid US dollars and gave you a collectible that looks like money but functions more like a souvenir. The bank, a fortress of regulation and risk management, looks at that souvenir and sees only a problem, a box of complications they have no desire or financial incentive to open. Beyond the simple logistics of handling physical cash lies the even more impenetrable wall of international law and regulatory compliance, a world where the terms anti-money laundering and know your customer aren't just guidelines but the absolute law of the land. Banks like Wells Fargo and JP Morgan Chase operate under a microscope, subject to some of the most stringent financial regulations on the planet, enforced by giants like the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency and the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. Every single transaction that flows through their doors is scrutinized for potential links to terrorism, money laundering, fraud, or sanctions violations. Now, place yourself in the shoes of a bank compliance officer. A customer walks in wanting to exchange millions of units of a currency from a country that has, for decades, been a geopolitical hotspot, with a history of corruption, sanctions, and a financial system that is not fully transparent or integrated with the West. Iraq, despite its progress, still carries the heavy baggage of its past, and its currency is, from a regulatory standpoint, a massive red flag. For the bank, accepting your Iraqi dinar is not a simple exchange, it's a potential regulatory nightmare. They would have to conduct an exhaustive investigation into the source of your funds, prove beyond a doubt that the currency was not involved in any illicit activity, and document a clear, legitimate reason for the transaction. The cost of this due diligence for a single, small-scale currency exchange is utterly unjustifiable. It is far safer, easier, and cheaper for the bank to simply have a blanket policy of refusing these currencies altogether than to risk a multi-million-dollar fine from regulators for a single compliance misstep. This is the part of the Iraqi dinar news that the gurus and pumpers almost never explain to you. They talk about the potential for wealth, but they never detail the terrifying real-world risks that the banks are actively avoiding on your behalf. The Vietnamese Dong, while from a more stable nation, faces a similar regulatory and perceptual hurdle. Vietnam still maintains capital controls, meaning there are strict limits on how much of its currency can leave the country and how it can be converted. When you buy Dong from a dealer in the US, you are often operating in a legal gray area, outside the official channels. A major U.S. bank cannot and will not participate in a transaction that might circumvent another country's sovereign financial laws. It would damage their international relationships and, again, open them up to regulatory hell. So, when you hear a promoter say, the banks are refusing to buy now because they know the revaluation is coming and they want to keep all the profits for themselves, you are being fed a fantasy designed to explain away a very inconvenient truth. The banks aren't playing a clever game of financial chess with you, they are following their survival instincts. They are refusing your currency for the same reason a grocery store refuses to accept seashells as payment. It's not a recognized, stable, or practical medium of exchange within their ecosystem. The refusal is a symptom of the currency's fundamental lack of utility and status, not a secret confirmation of its imminent rise. Let's also address the brutal economic reality that makes the revaluation story a mathematical and economic impossibility. Promoters love to spin tales of the dinar magically returning to its pre-Gulf War strength, often throwing around numbers like $3 or more per dinar. This is a complete and utter fantasy that demonstrates a profound ignorance of basic economics. Such a revaluation would require the Central Bank of Iraq to effectively destroy over 99% of its currency in circulation overnight. Imagine the entire money supply of a country vanishing. The result would be catastrophic deflation, an immediate and total collapse of the Iraqi economy, and societal chaos. It would make every Iraqi citizen instantly, unimaginably poor in terms of global purchasing power, as their salaries and life savings, held in dinar, would become worthless outside their borders. No government or central bank in the world would ever commit economic suicide in this manner. The real, practical path for Iraq is gradual, slow appreciation through economic growth and stability over many, many decades, not a fairy tale overnight event. The banks know this. The International Monetary Fund knows this. Every credible economist on the planet knows this. The only people who don't seem to know it are the ones. Now, you have a choice to make. You can close this video and go back to the forums and the gurus, listening to the same people who have been wrong for over a decade, hoping that this time will be different. Or, you can break the cycle. You can choose to be informed instead of being influenced. If this video has opened your eyes, if it has connected the dots that the promoters deliberately keep separate, then your next step is crucial. Share this video with one other person you know who is also invested in the dinar or dong. Send it to them privately, post it in a group, but get this information out there. Let's shatter this echo chamber of misinformation together. Then, I want you to do your own independent research. Don't just take my word for it. Go to the websites of the Federal Reserve, the International Monetary Fund, and read their reports on Iraq and Vietnam. Look up the term, forex liquidity. Understand what capital controls are. Arm yourself with the cold, hard facts that the dealers hope you'll never bother to learn. And most importantly, if you are still considering buying this currency, I am telling you right now, run. Take your money and invest it in something real, something with a transparent market, something a major bank will actually accept. Your financial future is too important to be left to a fairy tale. Smash that like button if this exposed the truth for you, subscribe for more content that cuts through the financial nonsense, and let me know in the comments what your biggest takeaway from this was. The first step to reclaiming your power is understanding the game that's being played. Now you know.